place, catching vibes, sit back and we blaze in the sky like I'm out of space. Natural high, light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up.
What's going on, Cigar World? What's going on, Cigar Enthusiasts? This is Jack, the Cigar Enthusiast, and I'm back with another virtual deck segment. And I think today you guys are really going to see that we are just different here at the Virtual Smoke Deck, man. But before we get into that, man, I'm your host. I'm Jack. Today we have an action-packed story segment, whatever you want to add to it. Really just coming to your screen in the palm of your hands. It's going to be freaking amazing. If you're new to the channel, make sure you go ahead. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, give us a huge thumbs up. And if you're watching from Facebook, go ahead and hit that follow, that like button, and also create a watch party, share to your groups, share to everybody the good word that we about to give you here from Washington, D.C. itself. Man, today it's been great, man. Last week was epic, not epic in a way, but it was actually a catastrophe for the most part. We were supposed to have, Karen Berger on, and, that we had technical issues, so we had to postpone and yada, yada. But, man, I mean, we're coming off, one of those weekends into this amazing show, and I'm really excited about seeing this, man. Y'all already know, man, if y'all want to say hello, what's up, or if you got a question for our guest, go ahead and hit that comment box. Shout out to Ashley with Cigar Sticks and Lipstick Stains. Right now, she's going through her thing. It's called Stick Figures. Go check her out on Instagram and Facebook, man. She's amazing. Man, Cy Sweeney, what's up, champ? All the way from Ireland. Ireland, my friend. Hey, look, I always wanted to ask you this. I feel like we have gotten to the point where we kind of know each other, but we don't know each other. So is Ireland really how Sons of Anarchy played it out to be? Man, hit the comment box. I want to know. Because there's no way that Belfast is not a real thing. There's no way that there's not bikers just driving around and shooting stuff up out there. Let me know, man. I really want to know. Shout out to my beautiful wife, man. But before we go ahead and get this going, man, like I said, man, I'm happy to be back in front of you guys. It's going to be a great show. Go ahead and share. The shares has been slow today. So go ahead and share for me. Man, my brother Johnny, live from the JSU. And make sure y'all go check out Johnny's JSU Fireside Chat at 8 o'clock, man. If you don't have the link and you're not cool enough to be in the club or the group, then go join the group. Get the link. It's going to always be an amazing time, man. But nice to see you, Reamer. But, man, without further ado, man, I feel like I have done my antics a little bit too long today. But we're going to bring in our guest, man. Our guest is, somebody that I was fortunate to meet in my lounge. I love to see that. He came down for the fight night for the UFC fight here in Jacksonville. Great guy, amazing energy, amazing personality, and just, really cares about the structure and the mannerism and how the cigar community and regulations is being handled, and making sure that we're putting ourselves out there and understanding what we are advocating for. What we should be advocating for, what we don't realize, what regulations we're not paying attention to that's going to cause some friction. That is something that he really helped me understand. Man, he's just a great guy, man. Without further ado, introducing our guest, Josh Harbursky. Ski guys.
What's going on, Jack? How are you?
Man, I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm very excited to be on the show. That was quite the intro. I better live up to it,
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, man. You're a great guy, man, with a great personality. I don't see you pushing that back any little bit, okay?
And we had a great time when we first met. That you have a wonderful shop, great humidor, the private lounge there. I mean, it was coincidental. I was looking for matches or a lighter for the cigars that I had brought. And I really just stumbled. The hotel was right next door, and we had a blast there. That was a great time. And that was my first time in Jacksonville, and you really gave us a great welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, look, man, I tell people all the time, man, we're the best cigar lounge in Jacksonville. And I don't say it to be boastful or bragful or anything of that nature. It's just a simple, these are the testimonies that we get, from people that go to cigar lounge. I'm not going to share the what we had, with the, cigar lounge you've been to. That just ain't between us. But more of the story is, it's people that always go to cigar lounges that don't really understand that, the cigar lounge has to set a tone. No matter who you are, what you do, if the cigar lounge sets a tone, then it's going to be receptive to people from all walks of life, man. So having you from DC, being, the head of government affairs for PCA, Premium Cigar Association, man. If y'all don't know what PCA is, Google it, and then they'll tell you. A lot of, like me and you talked about, and I think that's what, one of our first conversations that we're gonna get into. Everybody having mixed emotions about PCA, and what the organization is doing, and then how we're putting into things that we should be doing. But that's something that we're gonna talk to, man.
Yeah.
Before we get into all that, man, go ahead and give us an introduction of who Josh is. For people that don't know, for people that do, man, tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So I've been with PCA now for 2 years, full time. A year before it, I worked as a consultant for the organization. I serve as our chief lobbyist, working on behalf of premium cigar lounges, retail shops, cigar bars, the 3,000 entities, 3,000 plus across the country, and basically defending our ability to enjoy a legal adult product and continue to operate with regulatory certainty. So, when we're fighting back against Congress, fighting back against the FDA, working with my colleague Glenn Luke, at the state level, we're the first line of defense for the premium cigar industry in the United States.
There you have it. So a little bit about Josh said he was very modest about. I mean, his sole job is running one of the biggest. Is that me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, one of John's biggest job. I mean, Josh's. Before we move forward, Josh, Sai got back with me on that Ireland comment, and this is what we got. So. That's amazing, coming from somebody that lifts trucks for a living. Literally, I mean, dude used to be a professional bodybuilder. But anyway, I think you were very humble in your introduction to a point where, I mean, it really doesn't allow people to grasp the importance of your job. I mean, and I'm gonna break it down a little bit. Josh's sole purpose is to make sure that he has a connection in between the politicians, Republican or Democratic, independent, conservative, left, right, it doesn't matter. His job is to build rapport with these people. So when FDA decides, hey, we're going to go ahead and try to drop the hammer on them, he has already a connection that has been, solidified over time and time again, and working on various projects, helping out in any way that you possibly can. So am I wrong, or am I a little far-fetched?
I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of the role is relationship building, whether it's building relationships with elected officials or policymakers, but also, going out into the field and meeting with retailers and consumers. What are your pain points? How can we make it easier and less of a burden by government to operate your business, to employ people, to pay your taxes, to continue to survive, but also thrive as a business. And I think that is the most important thing that we do, is trying to foster those conditions. You're based in Florida, in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
We fought back the state legislative session against the prohibition on enjoying a premium cigar or pipe tobacco in a public park or on the beaches. I know whenever I go to Florida, that's one of the beauties of it, being able to walk along the coast, smoke a cigar, go to one of the fine tobacconists, and enjoy an adult product occasionally and recreationally. So we want to mobilize people, excite people about government affairs, and get consumers and employees involved. We have a daunting task ahead of us. There's a lot of policies that whether it be tax increases or prohibitions on certain product categories, we have a lot that we're facing, and we need to get all hands on deck. That includes consumer, retailer, and manufacturer, to fight back against these things, or we're going to have to endure a lot of problems to our industry.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things, is having an advocacy for us on the retail side. I think so many times the manufacturers are already doing big items. They already have the money to help sway legislative in a way that is advantageous for them. But I think also on our end, the consumer doesn't have to really worry about too much, but the middleman, the retailers, the brick and mortars, the online sectors, is the people that kind of pays the price for everything. And it kind of, speaking of that, PCA was founded as an organization that is one, protects cigar rights. It's not the same as Cigar Rights for America, so let's not put that in a word pile and say that's a thing. But in reality, PCA was one of the first organizations to really fight for cigar rights before the organization really came around. I guess on a bigger scale is, right now, a lot of people are you have a lot of manufacturers as well as brick and mortars. It's like, the hell with PCA. PCA is not doing X, Y, and Z. What would be your answer to that?
Absolutely. I think it was tough last year not having a trade show. That's our bread and butter. That's what we're known for most commonly. But, last year we had monumental wins, especially in the advocacy front, whether it was in the courts, whether it was in Congress or the state legislatures. We've been able to fight back against tax increases so that, business owners can continue to operate. We're still fighting tax increases right now in Massachusetts and Maine. And, when I say that we're the first line of defense, that I think that's the truest statement. You, as a PCA member, your dues are continuously going to fight for advocacy year round. We don't stop, at certain cycles. And I think that, the trade show, the way that I look at it, and I'm biased because I run our government affairs, that's another core function of the association. But advocacy is just as important, if not more important, because it talks and it speaks to the longevity of the industry at large. And you mentioned Cigar Rights of America. We work cooperatively with them. They're our partners. Every week we're coordinating on strategy and developing ways that we can promote and advance the industry. So, I think that some of the criticism, I welcome it. If folks are going to give me a call or send me an email, I'm happy to converse about what PCA can do better. But it's funny, a lot of the criticism tends to be the keyboard warriors of sending out a comment here and there.
Yeah.
Online. And it's like, I want to improve. We're not perfect, but you tell us and we'll work through the issues that folks have. We're continuously improving, not only in government affairs and advocacy. Last year, I went and visited 75 retail locations. I plan on meeting 100 retail locations this year. And in doing so, I will constantly be getting feedback from folks, whether it be consumer or retailers.
Hey, Grey Wolf had a question, but Grey Wolf, we're gonna get back to your question. Grey Wolf is one of guys that digs deep into every single thing about every single member and every single issue. Great Wealth, we're going to put that question on standby for a second to allow us to get some other stuff knocked out before we go straight into the attack mode. So that's interesting that you say that, because I really do feel like majority of the controversy behind or surrounding PCA is a bunch of people that want to talk about what PCA is doing. Just like everybody wants to talk about what government officials is not doing what, and it's just like sometimes there is a piece inside of that where we have to use some common sense, and we have to understand that just because we have a say-so or we have a problem with something does not mean it's get dealt with, and it gets dealt with in a rapid manner, or it's not a fight that's not being fight. I watched this TV show called All American, and this is going to be very, very brief, but I kind of want to hit it home for what it is. And I'm saying on the show, the daughter released this video of police brutality that happened, whatever. And inside of that, the DA, her mom was a DA, and she had told her, hey, I can't tell you what's going on, but we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. She said, well, you wasn't working fast enough. Released a video, put the DA in the hot spot. But I think that's something that we also got to look at from a PCA standpoint. Fighting legislation is not something that happens overnight. Fighting the FDA that's been talking about, X, Y, and Z and trying to ban tobacco for a long time is not something that we're just going to win overnight. What is the best, the best advice that you can give for those folks that are looking for the instant now and versus the real true process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting because the way that we operate, there is Glenn Loop, who runs our state affairs, myself, and our executive director, Scott Pierce, who does some advocacy issues on occasion. We're short staffed. We're covering 50 states, the federal government, and sometimes here and there localities based off of the necessity for an advocacy need. And it's government operates quickly at times and very slowly at times. And, I did an interview last week for another program and mentioned that the process, we're fighting the long term. We have a long-term strategy. We have a short-term strategy. We're working with our coalition partners, and it's 3D chess. It's not checkers. It's not very easy, and things change. Next week I have my set schedule, but it can change on a dime, and something comes up where we're going to need to weigh in on an issue area. So I think with the Food and Drug Administration, we've been at it diligently, meeting with the administration when it was the Trump administration. We're meeting with the Biden administration now. Premium cigars are a bipartisan issue. We have champions that are Democrats, champions that are Republicans, and opponents that are Democrats and opponents that are Republicans. So, it is a very challenging issue set. It's rewarding. And more times than not, we're able to get victories for our membership. We've defeated over a half dozen tax increases this year. Local authority, basically tobacco control. One of the ways that a lot of the public health groups or the anti-tobacco groups get victories over our interests is basically saying, well, I can't get it done at the federal level, so I'm going to do it at the state level. If I can't get it done at the state level, let's have local control so that, your cities, your towns are able to tax and regulate tobacco, and they have the resources. As I mentioned, there are two of us that are fighting for retail lounges full time. And that's a lot of ground to cover. And, we had constraints, not having a show last year and the budget cuts and staff reductions. We're finally getting fully fledged where we're able to fight back and give a counterpunch. We have a very aggressive strategy. And that's one thing that I would like every retailer that's watching today, knowing that we are aggressively pursuing your best interests at the state and federal level.
And I think our best interest at the state and federal level really kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, I'm a fairly new owner, but I get it. I get the process. I get like we talked about at the lounge, I get where we need to be fighting at. I get where we need to be protecting at. The ability to smoke in my lounge right now is something that Michigan doesn't have. There's a lot of it's stuff that is areas and states that, throughout the world where the United States where they're trying to ban the smoking in your lounge, smoking in your office type deal, restaurants and different things of that nature. And that kind of gets into, Ron's question, but it looks like you had something on that.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Michigan, you couldn't for a while, but we were able to meet with the Department of Health and Human Services and get that overturned. That's a perfect example of PCA membership dues at work. We partnered with the Michigan Retail Association. They've done a phenomenal job. And one of the manufacturers stepped up to help fund an on-the-ground lobbyist. So we were able to partner with someone that's local in order to effectively do it. And now we're working on preserving their 50-cent tax cap. So it's a continuous process. One of the things that I emphasize is that, there's never going to be an ultimate victory. We are always going to be battling. And, once we get these, and there are monumental victories over the course of time. I think the substantial equivalence in the courts last year, that was a monumental victory. It's something where we talked about for many months afterwards. And at our trade show, we're going to devote part of our legislative update to talking about that case study, how it was able to be achieved, and what were all the pieces kind of, we're scaling back the hood to show the interior of how everything was made and how it operates. So, I would just say that for folks that look back and they see occasionally the updates and the news, know that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. And I tell folks, there are certain things, I do a ton of podcasts and interviews. There are certain things that we can't talk about because they are, they're happening in real time. We don't want to put elected officials on the spot, or we do sometimes. So it's very calculated. A lot of it is, purposefully secretive in some cases. But then after the fact, we do decode it and talk a lot about it.
Yeah. And I think, that goes a lot with like Intel. Intel and, cases and all that stuff, just certain stuff we can't talk about, and certain stuff we want to understand now. Like we want to understand what the hell is going on, what is flying around the world right now at 138 knots. And nobody know what it is. We know what it is, but we want to answer. But it's something that they can't just give right now because I don't know does not work. It's just not something that we can do. Speaking of Michigan, man, let's dive deeper into that. Michigan, tell us about Michigan's situation. Tell us, we understand PCA was able to help. We understand they was able to partnership with, lobbyists in there. We get it. But how is that? How is a situation that comes up? Let's say I have a situation. How is it presented to the PCA? Great time to put the tickler on, right? So how is that presented, to you guys, so you understand what to be working on, what to be focusing on, and how do you guys kind of set that up into a bracket of importance for that matter, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first and foremost, we work with our state partners. We are not going to get involved in a state issue area unless the state association comes up with an issue, or if it's something of national importance where we think it's going to go from one state to the next and become more of a national issue. Yeah. So we first starts with having a conversation with the state association, with their leadership. And then we, based on that, we kind of come up with a strategy and a plan. We launched a grassroots campaign on cigaraction.org. We sent 3,000 letters to the Michigan state elected officials, as well as the governor's office, encouraging them to reopen cigar lounges. Basically, they were closed based off of an executive order in terms of the mask policy as it relates to COVID. So, if you wouldn't be able to smoke a cigar because you had to wear a mask. Yeah. We came back and presented data and information, again, working with the state association, and made it not about tobacco or cigar smoking. We made it about ventilation. And ventilation systems in cigar lounges are significantly better than any other restaurant or retail business. So we were able to get an exemption based off of those ventilation systems. If you met a certain criteria, you would be able to, continue to operate. So it took about 2 to 3 weeks time, but we were able to get them to reopen. We were able to reopen businesses in Washington, D.C., Baltimore County. There were a few other localities where we were able to replicate the Michigan victory, and it was great. We partnered, Cigar Aficionado covered the efforts that we were doing with the Michigan State Association, and we were able to take that and present that in other localities and other counties and cities where we were able to get reopened. And I think right now, pretty much there's no closed cigar lounges or retail locations due to COVID policy.
Yeah.
They're at least operating at partial capacity.
Yeah. And, that's major too, because I don't think a lot of people understand, bad ventilation goes two ways. Bad ventilation means that there's no germs getting out of your place. A lot of your smoke eaters, like you stated, comes with HEPA filters. And what the HEPA filters is cleaning out bacteria, it's cleaning out airborne illnesses and different things of that nature in a magnitude that you said is not seen in other restaurants. I think eating at a restaurant is the most unsanitary thing when you try to compare the two in regards to what you can do with your mouth and what you can't do with your mouth, and COVID and all of that stuff. So I may be wrong, but I think that's where I stand.
Yeah, and COVID was, it rocked the industry, rocked a lot of businesses small businesses across the board. That was one of the things that we wanted to activate quickly for our members and let them know, where to get PPP resources, where to get different funding to stay afloat, to help their employees. So, on a daily, we were providing updates during the beginning of COVID, how to assist our retail members and their employees to stay in business. That's another example of how the association stepped in. We identified a key threat to the industry and rapidly responded in real time. So those guides, we were, oftentimes producing stuff, quicker than some of these major associations that, millions of dollars more than we do. And that to me was a priority and continues to be a priority. If something pops up that is a major threat to the vast majority of our membership, we need to act and we need to get going
quick. So I want to circle back to Ron's question. Then I want to get into some good stuff. Ron stated, how is the PCA helping Hat City Owl House fight for their rights and getting the grandfathered in cigar exemption recognized? Ron, if you could tell us what state that is, let's know exactly what that is, John.
It's in Connecticut. I'm familiar with it. We were asked this question on a previous broadcast. So my predecessor, who ran state affairs, 3-4 years ago, worked on this issue. Glenn Loop, when he was at Cigar Rights of America, worked on this issue. He's continued to work at it now in his new capacity as our director of state affairs. This has gone all the way up to our executive director, Scott Pierce. We provided some follow-up information to the business in question. It's a tough scenario. I myself am not a lawyer, nor is Glenn. So there is some specific things that need to take place there. One of the things that I want to emphasize in this interview is that if it's an advocacy issue, if there is a pending piece of legislation, we will activate. Again, we have to do it with the consent of the state association. So that's something that where we're looking into right now. There is a bill in Connecticut that we're aware of that Glenn is talking to the state association about whether we will get involved. So that is where that stands right now. I know that there are some folks, and again, we talked a little bit about being quick to the draw and getting things done. This is a very complex issue, and one that, we want to be as helpful as we can in it. But there is some stuff in that legal sphere, which again, we don't have the resources to provide legal counsel to 3,000 small businesses. We provide generic counsel here and there, and then if it's an advocacy issue, we're able to work on it, especially if it's at the state or federal level. Being two of us, if we worked on every locality, we wouldn't be able to get anything done.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I guess that's kind of why, you spoke about the beaches and parks, ban that they try to do in smoking here, which is like weird because it's like Florida is one of those. Florida is like Pennsylvania. Like those two states are like all hail cigars. You know what I mean? And the fact that they tried to throw that out there was just another way for, it just didn't make sense. And I guess that's like something that you guys got involved in on the federal level, if I'm not mistaken, right?
On the state level, we did. And we worked on that. And this is a great example. We worked with Marvin Holzhauser, who is a shop owner in Florida. He's also on the PCA board of directors. We prepped him to testify in front of the committee. That was very interesting because, the bill ultimately got defeated. It's been introduced before. We were able to send 3,500 consumer and retail letters in opposition to it. So we launched that grassroots campaign. I mentioned cigaraction.org. That's the vehicle that we were able to do that with. And then, with the testimony, it was so effective that not only was it defeated, but before it was defeated, there was an exemption where if it were to go through, you would still be able to smoke premium cigars and pipe tobacco on the beaches and public parks, just not other tobacco products. Now, ultimately, the whole bill was defeated, and you can continue to do any of those products. But we look at it, we want to get as much as we can and protect as much as possible. So if I can get 95%, we're not going to get 100% every time. There are going to be some defeats. We're going to have to negotiate. But from our perspective, if we can get exemptions for premium cigars and pipe tobacco, that's a big win.
Yeah. So speaking of, wins right now, what are some situations, some policies, some regulations that we need to be, open to, just like the beach situation, just like the, park situation? What is something that is going on right now within the regulation that the FDA and, the fight that we need to pay attention to, and how can the consumers help?
Yeah, so a couple things. We have an open action alert on Cigar Action for tax increases. There's a bill out there, Senator Durbin.
Dick Durbin.
Yeah, he introduced two bills that would increase the tax on premium cigars by 1,000% and pipe tobacco by 1,600%. Basically, it takes the tax on those two products, puts it in line with cigarettes, and then doubles it. So it is a prohibitionist tax increase. It's supposed to raise $100 billion in revenue, but we know if it were to go into effect, small businesses would be forced to close. Yeah. If you're barely making ends meet, if you're coming out of the pandemic, just trying to, reignite your consumer base and reignite your business, this would be the worst thing for it. So we're aggressively fighting that in Congress, in both the House and the Senate. The other thing that's on the horizon, a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Food and Drug Administration released, and I keep calling it a press conference. They basically said that they were going to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. Now, this lies the question of, what does flavored cigars entail? Are you talking about the convenience store cigars? Are you talking about, the infused cigars? Like, what is that all going to entail? And sometimes the public health groups play a slippery slope. I'm smoking a cigar that a media outlet might say has notes of chocolate or cocoa. Well, there's no chocolate or cocoa in the cigar, but it's a characterizing flavor. So we need to make sure that it's protected against that. So, it is really an interesting development.
Well, this is a good one. JC Newman is hoping to get the government to allow them to import Cuban tobacco. How are y'all helping to support that? Sorry if the question is a little too late. You're fine, Nick. But I don't want to go to that yet. I wanted to hit on it. Nick, we're going to get back to your question. That's going to be something that we hit on here in the next couple of minutes. So something that that popped in my head as I heard you explain about like the flavor cigar, the infused cigar. I think it's best to kind of lay a foundation. Let us know who Senator Durbin is. Let us know his stance on tobacco, because I think that matters. And even from, I can tell you, but I'd much rather hear from Josh, and I think you guys may want to hear from Josh. But this guy is, I'm just speaking more or less from my perspective now, is in one of the, he's a senator and one of the how do you say this without being controversial? That's something we have to think about nowadays.
I can answer. I know where you're going with it.
Yeah,
I think that so Senator Durbin is out of Illinois. He is the most anti-tobacco member of Congress out there. He introduced several bills every Congress that are meant to curb the industry. It's not necessarily directed at premium cigars per se, but it always encapsulates them. So he's somebody that we have to be mindful of, and often will influence our defensive strategy. I mentioned before, we have a long-term strategy to promote premium cigars as a noble practice and noble profession. However, we have to be defensive when we're presented with these real threats. So we've engaged with offices and the committees. So Senate Finance is where the bills are, because it's a tax policy, and then the House Ways and Means. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, also out of Illinois, out of the Chicago suburbs area, a House member, introduced a complementary bill that is in line with what Senator Durbin introduced. So, we go and I meet with a lot of different staff. We've conducted 450 federal meetings in the 2 years and 2 months that I've been there. We have a consultant that works hand in hand, Patrick Anderson, who will be at our trade show with myself, answering questions one-on-one with retailers about some of the issues affecting the day. But we have an outreach strategy. We talk about how we are not vaping products. We have a youth access issue, that most people will enjoy a premium cigar for the first time at the age of 30. They will, enjoy it less than 2 times a month. Yeah. Those are the statistics and the data that we employ as an industry. 30,000 retail jobs in the United States, that the cigar industry has 300,000 jobs in Nicaragua, the Dominican Republic, and Honduras. So casting the facts and figures and data for policymakers, whether they're the Senator Durbins or some of our champions like Senator Rubio in Florida, who often will introduce positive legislation that helps free up premium cigars from burdensome regulations.
And I think burdensome regulations is something that we have to look at, because at the end of the day, you have cigarettes. It's been a thing for so long. You have the vaping epidemic that's going on. You have, the hookah, all this stuff that's trying to be associated, because, we carry tobacco. But one of the things that I like to always mention is, cigar tobacco is one of the most organic tobaccos that you can get. It has no pesticides put on it to make it grow faster. There's a stringent process that it follows in order to create this thing. So it's not the same cigarette policy obviously is using tobacco that can't be used in a cigar. We get it. But I think one of the major organizations in which needs to be kind of having their antennas up, which I'm positive that their antennas up, is you want Swisher Sweets that own Drew Estates. I think there right now is a direct attack on them, because they produce majority of your quote unquote flavored or infused cigars throughout the industry. Do you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a premium cigar by definition of what, PCA and CRA, their definition is in line with what Judge Mehta decided in the court ruling, what the FDA acknowledged as, whole leaf tobacco, vegetable gum, and water. Those are the three components of it. That's what consists as a premium cigar. But, we also represent pipe tobacco. A lot of our retail lounges carry those. Some of our retailers carry infused cigars or flavored cigars. We don't consider them premium cigars.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we want to prohibit them. It's tiered regulation. If this is the lowest risk and it's the lowest enforcement priority based off of what the FDA said, then that should be treated one way. But that doesn't mean that these other products should be taken off the market. Show us the evidence that, and the FDA didn't. I mean, the FDA and CTP so far had a press conference attacking, menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars, but they haven't released the actual policy. We don't know what it's going to entail. So, we're being cognizant. We know that our members sell, some other products like flavored pipe tobacco. And we are going to make sure that we come to the defense of our members. Again, it's this tiering. We want to make sure that first and foremost, premium cigars that are not, flavored and they're not machine made, that those are being protected.
Well, we just had a comment come by, and I do want to let them know before I post this, we would love to hear an explanation on this claim, Kevin. So definitely, it said they refuse to help PCA abandon this long-standing member. We need to know what you're talking about. That way, we can at least, if it's not already on Joshua's radar, we can put it on Joshua's radar to see how we can assist.
It is, and it involves, one of the comments earlier. Kevin has my cell phone number. He has Glenn's cell phone number. I'm not going to deal with this online.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there wants to be personal conversation, then, that's perfectly fine. But, I'm not airing the dirty laundry of non-members right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Kevin, I do love the fact that you're here and you're watching. But we got to save that conversation for another day, another topic. Definitely inbox me, reach out to Glenn as well as Josh on whatever the matter is, so we can. He said, "Look, so y'all can go back and forth. Reach out to Josh. That's all we're gonna say, Kevin. Reach out to him. Josh is, sitting here representing, for sure." And saying he's willing to talk, so let's do it.
Absolutely. He said, I know that Glenn was talking with the Connecticut folks about the bill. We're aware of the bill, and that's what my earlier comments reference. We're happy to, work on an advocacy campaign as long as it's okay with the Connecticut Association. So, Glenn is taking the lead on. It's a state issue, but I'm happy to get involved if necessary.
And Kevin as well, let this be known that you do have other advocacy programs. You do have, people like myself that's willing to assist in any kind of way. You have people like Harbursky that's willing to assist in any kind of way. You have Cigar Rights of America that's willing to assist in any kind of way. You have the cigaraction.org that you can go on, man. We're here for you, brother. We want to see you succeed. Trust and believe. We all want to see you succeed. And again, I would love to have a conversation with you as well. Off topic, but for sure, Josh, I think one of the biggest things right now, obviously there, like I said, there is a lot of tension. We know that is nothing that is, far few in between. But at the end of the day, to my understanding, there's a lot of understanding of what we do need to fix. There's a lot of understanding of what we need to improve on. There's a lot of understanding that, in order to fight big battles, you need big money. And if, I understand, dues, we all pay dues. We all want to know, yada, yada, yada. But, it's part of what it is. I think a lot of the wins, circumvent the losses, and I think even on the losses there was still a lot of effort put into to try to get that as a win, so I definitely get it. Go ahead, sorry.
we're gonna release, our list of state legislative and federal legislative victories in July in advance of the trade show. There's a lot of stuff that we have put together and we've been successful at doing. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to fight and win as many battles as we can. Again, we talked about being stretched thin. We're working nonstop, and the association is making some changes. We're again, if you look at the trajectory of how many actions alert we've done year to year, we've already done 60 campaigns. That's 60 campaigns again for two people, and those are again 10, 12 phone calls going back and forth, prepping people to testify. There's a lot of things that we can improve upon, but we're stretched thin at this point. Again, we're planning to make some hires towards the end of the year and really bolster our effectiveness so that we can assist at the at more of the local level. That's not something that we typically do because we're busy working at 50 states and the federal level.
So I want to get into a topic that I think is really something that we need to focus on, which is obviously Dick Durbin and his wheelhouse on what he talked about. We obviously know that he has, I think to be honest, I'm just this is being honest, knowing I'm from the Illinois area, it's been one of those state economies that's struggled for a long time. The state has bankrupt several times, and they're always looking for ways to generate money. But I think more than anything, they need to generate positions and policies that help them protect the money that they get. But we're not here to debate that on anything. But what are some other things that we should be honing in? Just how we came to the rescue for Florida, how can we come to the rescue for other, how can the consumers assist in, getting some of this other legislative done?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, Maine and Massachusetts have tax bills, tax increases that they're considering. In Michigan, I mentioned before, we're trying to preserve the tax cap there. Tax caps are great. They, afford the states a lot of continuity. In Delaware, we're working to reduce the tax rate from 30% to 15%. We were able to testify recently in a hearing there and work with several consumers and the local retailers there for that session. So we've been active there. In Maryland this session, we were actually able to reduce the tax on pipes. For pipe tobacco, and work in a number of ways. The Maryland State Association, I just did a broadcast with them, a Q&A, talking about how to effectively run a state association. And that's one thing that we're trying to bolster is working with our state association partners in the advocacy. Being that there's only two people, we can't be everywhere at one time. I can't be in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in Tallahassee. We have to train people that are local in order to do the advocacy and provide that strategic support in the background. The technology, the contacts, we have a lot of that apparatus and we can provide those to our members. But unfortunately, we can't be everywhere at one time.
Well, I know the PCA has a schedule for, the upcoming trade show. Tell us a little bit about that, and a little bit. Will they be having, any type of things that we're talking about, the state advocacy training and going on there during the trade show?
Absolutely. There's going to be 3 or 4 dedicated sessions to government affairs and advocacy. Glenn and I are going to be I'm going to be giving a federal update. Glenn will be giving a state update. Then we'll be doing a panel with John Anderson and Greg Zimmerman, our president and vice president of the association, along with George Padron and Rocky Patel, 2 major manufacturers that have been involved in the advocacy process, the litigation. We're going to talk a lot about the court victories as well as the legislative victories and outreach with the administration. So that I think will be the most dominant session. But we're also going to do one on state advocacy and grassroots training, kind of a 101 plus 201 session. And then we'll also be doing a international policy and advocacy session too. And that's where it will be interesting. We're going to partner with the Cigar Rights of the World and the Cigar Journal for folks.
That dog seems very, very close. Are you okay? Hey, so, Nick, getting back to Nick's question about, Cuban import on Cuban tobacco, that has been a thing for, so long. Obviously, outside of the embargoes and different things of that nature. Can we explain the embargoes a little bit more? I mean, why the embargoes is a thing, and what's really the hindrance on getting Cuban tobacco to America?
Yeah, so it's interesting. This is something that came up on Friday. I saw the Cigar Aficionado release. It's something that we're researching as an association. Again, our first and foremost, efforts are on the retail side, not necessarily the manufacturing side. Although we do support our industry partners, there's been a long-standing embargo where, going back to John F. Kennedy, where you can't import premium cigars from Cuba to the United States. There is the ability for independent farmers from farms that are not or in factories not controlled by the state that you can bring in coffee. So basically, I know that they want to extend that. The J.C. Newman Company has petitioned to change that so that they can do that to independent tobacco as well. So, that is, something that they're exploring as a company. We keep in frequent contact with Drew, and if it's something that rises to the occasion where we need to be involved, I'm sure that Drew will reach out on that. But I can say that we will be doing something that involves importing and exporting in October in Washington, D.C., a bit of a forum where some of these issues will be discussed further. There hasn't been a lot of discussion about this from an industry at large perspective. So I think that it's important to get a lot of people together to have that discussion.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, the biggest support is like, Cuban tobacco, I may be wrong, but it doesn't seem like it's being advocated as much as it is for Nicaraguan and Dominican. Am I wrong or am I right?
Well, but I think it's our members and the manufacturing partners that we work with are importing and exporting from mainly exporting to the United States from Honduras, Nicaragua, and the Dominican Republic. There are a few others. Obviously, you have Mexican San Andreas, some other countries.
Yeah.
But, with the embargo in place, that's not something that we're tied into a whole lot. But I can say that international security and stability is a topic of interest for a Biden administration. So we will have some of these broader international relations conversations. So, basically, for the Trump administration, we talked a lot about small business. That was our leading topic area. We will continue to be small business in this administration, but we're adding the conversations about international stability because if an FDA regulation were to go into effect in the United States, the residual effect of that would mean migration issues, employment issues, the economic and the economic impact on those other countries would be harmful and significant. We need to make sure that narrative is front and center to policymakers.
Man, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Josh, I've learned so much from this segment, man. In regards to not only the stuff I did not know, but also things that I did know, and just getting a better understanding. I think a lot of people would get a lot of takeaway from this as well. The biggest thing that I can ask for is just continue to try your best. Continue to push like I know you will. A lot of people don't understand the importance of youth in an organization. the youth of, somebody that is, 32, 33, 34, 35 is a little bit more longevity there because, they have so much impact they're trying to produce. And I want to let you know that from my perspective is you have a lot of impact. You have a lot of ways to make an impact. So continue to make that impact in the best way that you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that, what you do in this segment, it's helpful for your consumers, the industry at large to know about these issues. I really thank you for providing me the opportunity to talk about the tough issues. And, we're not free from criticism. I think that there's a lot of improvements that we're going to be working to make, as I mentioned, in the coming months. But I am very proud of the department that we've built. And the victories that we've been able to achieve working again with consumers, retailers, and manufacturers. And I think that we'll continue to see the work that we've done over the past 2 years pay dividends for many months and years to come.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, hey, you guys have to, this is something that you hit home and a bunch of other people hit home. Get really acquainted with your local representatives, your city councilmen, your House of Representatives that's in your area, your senators within your state. This is definitely people that you want to know and try to get to know as much as you possibly can, because what's going to happen is, from a perspective of retailer side, what happens is when bills are passed on a state level, most of the time, if they don't know, then they're going to go with it. And the ability to have somebody that they can call and be like, hey, Jack, we just seen something come across our desk, or, hey, the most important people is not particularly me. And this is my personal opinion. The most important people is not the people that's, going into the rooms every single day and having these arguments like House of Representatives, city councilmen. It's the people that works for them. It's understanding their role of advocacy as well. Know them, but also know the people that works in those offices, and try to see if you can win, points with that. It's building relationships, guys. The biggest thing that we can do, the biggest thing that we can ask is when you're in a cigar lounge, don't be that guy that sits there and doesn't talk to anybody. If you're an owner of a cigar lounge, don't sit there and be like, hey, hi, Jim, how you doing? And that's the only thing that you say to him. Get to know him, because at the end of the day, like for us, we have a couple city councilmen, we have a couple city council representatives that frequent our lounge on a regular basis, and we have those hard conversations. Hey, what are y'all about to do to X, Y, and Z? How can we help improve this? How can we do X, Y, and Z? Absolutely, cigar rights of the world. But there's a lot of things that we need to be focusing on outside of just, hey, PCA, come save the day. We need to make sure
advocacy starts with you as an individual. I think every retailer is definitely equipped to host elected officials to their lounge. Let them see the camaraderie. Let them see the age verification systems you use. I think the goal of any retailer should be the resource and the knowledge expert in tobacco issues. So when something comes down the pike, it's, they're picking up the phone, calling you, rather than you having to call and advocate for something. And I think that, the nature of cigars and their political history has always been synonymous. And it's a great area where people can have those tough conversations and, come up with action plans. And we're happy to facilitate those. If you want to have a member of Congress or a state representative come to your shop, we're happy to, make those introductions and make them possible. So that is something that we do on a frequent basis. So, we're going to be working to do that. And if we're missing something, please let us know. And we're happy to, put together those resources. I mentioned cigaraction.org. We have a list of policy resources there, characterizing flavors to tax increases to, you name it across the board. And then all of our active action alerts there. So really emphasize there. And if something's missing, shoot me a note, shoot me an email, text me or call me. I've been to your shop, and Jack, I think it what you're doing is fantastic, and hopefully people that watch this will be inspired to do what you do and really spread the word.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Josh, we definitely appreciate you. You know, here we like to respect the time of our guests in our segments. But hey, one thing that we do on the virtual smoke that we do drop gems. The gem doesn't have to be cigar related. It can be life related. It can be anything. It's a gem that you feel that you want to convey to the people that is watching and the people that's going to watch this. Go for it.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I would say to folks is that stay steady, stay strong. There's going to be a lot of stuff that comes at us, but the premium cigar industry is resilient. If we can get through a global pandemic and come up better and bigger than ever, we can have and come together as a cigar family at our trade show, get that camaraderie back, get excited. And then get enthusiastic and then advocate for these through the different bodies. We need to remain steady, remain active. But again, that resiliency thing, it's like one of your family members is attacked, you got to come in and help support them. So, we continue to do that. We hope to facilitate that as best as we can. And, I look forward to seeing you in Vegas and sharing a cigar and hopefully a scotch or a rum.
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it. Hey, I'm more of a bourbon guy, but
Okay.
Scott, I actually had some Dallamore 18 year last night, man. Jesus Christ. My good friend of mine offered it, and that's a special bottle. You're talking $400-$500 a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
And Jesus, it was strong. I was like, wow, I see why. But Josh, we definitely appreciate you so much for coming onto the show, taking that time out your day to be with us today. You are amazing. Continue to do great things, and anything that you need from me, I'm here to support. And then obviously anything I need from you, I will definitely reach out for sure. I see you in Vegas, my brother.
See you soon, and I can't wait to come back to Jacksonville too.
Come on,
really
man.
Enjoyed your spot, and hope to be able to do that in the near future.
Hey, off topic. Did you see that we had Nate Diaz in the building the day afterwards?
That was awesome. I should have came the next day, but I was doing out things. So.
He was here for maybe an hour or so. Freaking humble guy. Me personally, I didn't know who he was. I don't watch UFC. And he was very humble, and then his manager came in and was like, "No, do you know who this guy is? This guy is X, Y, and Z tripping on." He was intense. He was intense. But hey, Josh, we appreciate you so much, my brother. You have a great day. Stay blessed. All right.
You too. Thank you so much.
All right, champ. That's the biggest thing on the virtual smoke deck. You're always going to get, different people from different backgrounds and different positions on helping, fight against what we love to do, is smoke cigars, man. So the fight never stops. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop with Josh. It doesn't start with Josh. It starts with us. It starts with the consumers. It starts with the people that is here on the ground, every single day. So we got to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to help them, win the fight. Wars are not battles. Battles are won and lost. Excuse me. Battles are won. Battles are lost. But the war is the overall victory of the war is what matters. And we got to understand that everything that's going on with the FDA, everything that's going on with cigars is continuous. Okay, we got to continuously stay in the fight. Get in contact with PCA on how you can be a state advocate. Get in contact with Cigar Rights of America to see how you can be an advocate. We need youth. So all my people that's gonna watch this out there watching right now, the youth is everything. We gotta stop just, hey, cigars is it. If you love cigars, do what you can do to make sure we stay around for a long time. And then also empower people to continue to smoke cigars. With that being said, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this segment, man. This is a great segment. I learned so much. My head is about to explode with the amount of information that I learned. Hopefully you guys was able to take that in as well. Most of the times I let the gems leave to them, man. But, I have one that's really on my heart that I want to share to you guys is determination on anything that you do first starts with you. You can be motivated, but you cannot be determined. Which means that when you become motivated, you have an ability to lose the motivation. But when you're determined to stay motivated, when you're determined to see the end out, you're most likely willing to come on top, man. I'm Jack, the cigar enthusiast. Next week on the Virtual Smoke That, we have Sean Williams, which is the brand ambassador for Cohiba. Another exciting segment that we're really looking forward to, and diving into the Cohiba brand. With that being said, if you're new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell, give us a huge thumb up. And if you're watching on Facebook, man, go ahead and like and follow the Virtual Smoke That Live. Also follow us at Dapper D Cigars on Instagram and Facebook for all the updated content and updated events that we are doing here at Dapper D's. And, you know, I appreciate you guys, man. I do tell you guys enough, but I want to tell you guys, you know, a lot more, that I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the support. And I'm sure my guests, you know, our guests on the Virtual Smoke That appreciate it as well. With that being said, I'm Jack, the cigar enthusiast, and I'm gone.